morning, friends of WLA. My name is Laura Adjangba, and I'm the president of Women Leaders in Action. Thank you for joining us for the 7th episode of Empowered Women Empower. In celebration of Women's History Month, today's episode is about gender equity. I'll start off by saying thank you to our viewers and also to our guests. Before I introduce our guest, I'll start off with a quote by a famous late Ghanaian scientist, Dr. Awuku-Agyeman, and he says, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. I think that is very apropos for this month, especially coming from a man. Our guests for today's show are three wonderful women. Doreen Awuku-Agyeman is with us, and then Paulina is also with us. Our other guest, Jayne Offori-Deku, who is currently in Ghana and will join by video. So a brief background to our guests. I would also like to, before the introduction, acknowledge WLA's ambassador, Susanna Kanyi, who's joining us from Abu Dhabi, WLA's executive board, and also WLA's advisory board members, of whom Paulina and Doreen are members. Okay. Doreen Awuku-Agyeman, a brief background to her. She is currently the Director of Segment and Multicultural Marketing Strategy at CAS Communications. In this role, she oversees all aspects of strategic planning and delivery of marketing campaigns that target the Hispanic, African American, Asian American, and LGBTQIA segments. Prior to joining CAS Communications in January 2021, Ms. Awuku-Agyeman spent 16 years at Verizon in various high-profile positions that included leading the company's marketing strategy and value proposition efforts towards launching the world's first 5G home internet and 5G wireless mobile services for the company. Ms. Awuku-Agyeman holds an advanced project management certification from Stanford University, an MBA from the University of Maryland, a dual master's degree in business management and public relations, also from the University of Maryland, a Bachelor of Science in computer networking from Australia University, as well as a degree in public relations and advertising from the Ghana Institute of Journalism. Thank you for being with us. Then we go on to Ms. Paulina Duka. Ms. Duka is a 32-year veteran healthcare professional. She has a background in nursing with broad practice experiences that includes critical care, home care, clinical program development, outcomes management, and hospital performance improvement. She is a graduate of the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Her clinical specialty and subject matter expertise is in diabetes care and education. She has co-authored publications on standards of care in diabetes, including the National Standards for Diabetes Self-Management, Education, and Support. Paulina has also worked internationally as part of a global marketing team, developing diabetes content to support Johnson & Johnson's diabetes care companies commercially, including a diabetes website for 22 plus countries. She was based in the Middle East, where she gained experience in international program development in different health systems, including markets with high diabetes prevalence rates and unique social and family dynamics around chronic disease management. She's currently working on her doctorate in public health. For more about the bios of our advisory board members, please visit our website, www.wlanj.org. They have extensive backgrounds, so it's very important to get to know them more. Our last guest, Jayne Offori-Deku, who's currently in Ghana and will read her poem by video, is an author and also a poet. She's inspired by nature, conversations, personal experiences, and observations. Ms. Offori-Deku seeks to provoke thought, share inspiration, and perhaps even get a smile out of her readers. She lives in North Carolina with her husband and 2 teenage children. She believes creativity is all around us and available to everyone. If we are ready to receive, it can come to and through us in different ways. We must, however, be open to being the conduit. Otherwise, it will find another means by which to express itself. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we will start with The Power That Is Me, a poem by Miss Jayne Offori-Deku.
The power that is me. I won't make myself small because it makes you squirm to see the power that is me. This is me, awesomely audacious. I won't rein myself in because it makes you uncomfortable to see my big, beautiful spirit walking ahead of me. This is me, boldly bodacious. I won't quench my fire because it singes you when you get too close to the burning force that is me. This is me, confidently courageous. This is me rising like the phoenix. This is me flowing like the Volta. This is me soaring like the eagle. This is me standing firm like the mighty oak. This is me, rooted in reality. Yes, this is me, awesome, audacious, bold, bodacious, confident, courageous. This is me, rising, flowing, soaring, standing, rooted. And I won't let you make me feel smaller than you.
Thank you very, very much, Miss Jayne Offori-Deku. What a powerful poem to start the day with. This is us. Bodacious. Okay, so thank you so much again, Ms. Jayne Offori-Deku. Jayne has written a book and we'll be posting it later on. It's available on Amazon, so you can buy her book of poetry as well. So without further ado, we're going to continue with our program. And our theme today is gender equity. And that is what the International Women's History Month, International Women's Day focused on. And I would like to ask our guests, starting with Doreen and then on to Paulina, what does gender equity mean to you? When one says gender equity, what does that even mean?
Thanks, Laura. Gender equity, to me, it's about striving very hard to identify the specific needs of the two genders. So we know the men are make up in a different frame, and then the women are make up in a different frame. So it's about looking at the unique qualities or the specific qualities within each of the genders and making provision to accommodate them. And to me, that's what gender equity is all about.
Thank you. We move on to Ms. Duka. What does gender equity mean to you?
First of all, thank you to join an awesome group of women. That poem was very inspiring. So gender equity to me means it's a means to equality, right? So equity means accounting for the differences, the circumstances that the different genders are in. Women are in completely different circumstances. We operate, we are biologically different from men. And so equity means accounting for those differences, meaning offering resources to make up for those differences so that we get to equality. That's what equity means to me. The accounting for the different circumstances and basically allocating resources to get us to equality. That's what equity means to me.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. So on that, I actually concur with both of you. And it's something that we have to keep working on. It's never, it's not attainable right away. It's an ongoing process because it's like the pendulum is always in one direction. We have to keep moving it to get to the middle. So thank you for that. The next question is, what is the difference between gender equity and gender equality? I had to look this up myself, but I'll be interested to know what you both understand when we refer to gender equity and then gender equality? Because I think both words are used interchangeably sometimes and we really don't know what it means. So Doreen, what's your take on that?
Yeah, interestingly, the difference between equity and equality, it's really two letters, right? It's the A and the L, but they mean totally two different things. I would say, like I mentioned before, equity is about providing the male and the female with the specific tools to help them thrive in an environment. Equality, on the other hand, is making sure that you are sharing the pie 50-50, making sure that you are bringing in all the people who make up the whole, but in so doing, recognizing that each of the segment, whether it's male or female, may have specific needs to operate under the same environment. But this equity can only happen if measures are put in place to combat or mitigate historical unfairness, this historical disadvantages that has prevented women, for instance, from operating under the same umbrella with men. So gender equity to me, it's okay, we know we have 50 men, 50 women, but women have specific needs. And even amongst that, there may be other people based on age, sex, physical disorientation. How do we make those provisions for these people to operate under the same playing field? And that's the difference between gender equity and equality for me.
Thank you, Doreen. Paulina, what does that mean to you?
I mean, I couldn't agree more with what Doreen just said, right? So equality, you're talking about 50-50. Equal means, to me, equality is fairness. Everybody gets the same thing. But we have to step back to why equity is important. Equity is important because, as I mentioned earlier, we don't all have the same circumstances. Biologically, there's a difference. We grow up with different social conditionings. Our parents, the entire society puts different constraints on women than they put on men. We come from homes that, I was thinking about this and looking at my own home upbringing, and I would consider myself privileged to grow up where I grew up and in the circumstances I grew up. But I can tell you that my brothers had different circumstances than I did. So having been brought up that way, it's going to look different for me in the workplace than it does for my brothers. We were both exposed to the same privileges, but the boys could get away with things that I couldn't get away with. So right away, I'm disadvantaged as a girl growing up, even though we came from the same parents. And like I said, I consider myself privileged. I still grew up with what I would call some cultural deficits. So equity is somebody giving me the opportunity, giving me time to build up my skills so I can stand up to what I can. But because of the traditions and conditions, I am now disadvantaged. Equity is assuring, getting those resources allocated to me, whether it's training, whether it's somebody sponsoring me, whether it's somebody mentoring me, so I can gain some of the things that I've lost due to just simply social constraints that have been placed on me. And so I see equity as a mean to really getting to equality. We will be 50-50. We will not be 50-50 until somebody has allocated resources to take care of the deficits that I have been afforded, intentionally or unintentionally. And that's what this is all about, getting to equality using equity or equitable means.
Wow, I like that. And to your point, both of you mentioned, the differences. And it's interesting how we tend to misinterpret it. And also, Paulina, you mentioned even the cultural backgrounds, what is expected of a woman from different parts of the world, and what's expected of a woman even in the workplace. Are you asking for too much when you are requiring that there should be equity as opposed to just equality? So thank you. All right. What would you say, Doreen, are the two guiding principles of gender equity from your viewpoint?
I mean, there are so many. I think I was researching this, and there are about 7 of them, right? If you look at the corporate environment, for instance, Paulina had mentioned some of the deficits that we have and how, whether it's corporations or individuals, can bridge this gap. You know, it's about evangelizing, being forthcoming, openly declaring that you as an individual, if it's an organization, making it clear that you are all about gender equity so that somebody can hold you responsible to it. Because when you make it open, it's usually hard for you not to live up to it. And it's also about that equal pay because historically, if you look at corporations, it's assumed that the men are always the breadwinners in the house. So in organizations, corporations, they always will give the men higher pay than the woman because they think, you know, first of all, you're not even supposed to be working. You're supposed to be in the kitchen cooking for your husband and family. And so that historical disadvantage is there. So for me, those principles are number one. The 2 principles of importance to me are evangelizing, declaring openly that you are about equity, so that you are putting in place measures like, you know, equal way of hiring people into an organization, regardless of their gender. And when you look at the gender, the race then comes in, minorities, the age, all those things. And then also, I like how states are now coming up to say public, you know, publish your pay when you post a job so that people know that whether I'm a male or female, I am going to get the same salary as my male counterpart. I have been a victim of that where I found that somebody I was actually training was earning more than I did. And I was like, wait a minute, something is wrong here. And oh yeah, I made sure I spoke up and said, no, this is not right. So it's about doing that. And I think for me, these are the 2 key examples that we could live up to make sure that we are living up to what equity should be about.
Thank you, Doreen. Paulina.
So I think certainly the evangelizing I like very much. You've got to make a stand that you are about equity. Another thing to be firm about is resource allocation. If you are going to make sure that people are equitably treated, have equitable access, you're going to have to recognize that because we do come from different circumstances, whatever my circumstances hasn't afforded me, you've got to be about making sure that I can get it. And the way you do that is to allocate resources so I can get up to speed. And I think whether it's organizations, I would say we start with the families, in our own families. You want to make sure that your daughter, if you see that your boy can talk in public and your daughter can't, then you need to invest more time to support your daughter so they can develop the same skills. Any skills that's good for the boy, it's good for the girl. And so where you see that one isn't as strong, it behooves us to put the resources in. And that's what I call resource allocation. Put the time and effort in, even as parents, to say, my girl needs more of me here than my son. So it works both ways, by the way. If my son also doesn't have something, has less of something than my girl, then I'm going to have to make sure that for the purposes of equity, they're also getting it. So putting the time and in the workplace, to me, it's money and effort and training. It's also about, it's similar to the evangelism. It's about sponsorship. It's someone being able to stand up for you, knowing that because of inequity, I'm going to commit to support this person so they can rise up. So the sponsorship, committing to sponsor women, committing to sponsor women, making that a commitment, and then putting the effort in it through resources, whether it's training and other necessary resources to really make sure that women come up to speed in the workplace and in any environment, really.
well said. I couldn't agree more. And when you talk about even pay, Doreen, I can relate to people walking into my office and I tell them how much I'm going to charge for a case. And they're like, no, I'll give you this amount. And I'm like, no, you won't. Because there's the expectation. And I remember when I first opened my practice, it was the most bizarre thing, but I think it's also cultural. People would actually call my husband from the community and say, I called Laura and she's charging me this amount. And can you talk to her? And my husband, God bless him, will start off by saying, do you know how many years it takes to become an attorney? And do you know? He starts giving them the history of, and she was pregnant in law school and she had a daughter in law school and she went back, and they're like, okay, it's okay. Because there's that expectation that he was going to convince me to lower what is the market rate. And one knows very well that even if you're charging the market rate, you're going to take up a lot more nonsense because of the culture. You know, people expect more from you. So I echo that very much. And also I like what you also said, Paulina, about it begins at home. If we do not start from the home, then we tell our daughters, you need to do this. You be in the kitchen, you go sit and watch. That is the no. And we need to just realize that is very important, because we are also we're all influencers, especially for our kids. We're all leaders. So we're either part of the problem or part of the solution. So that's how we can start, by being part of the solution. So thank you for that. What would you say are some examples of gender equity, Doreen?
Yeah, I think Paulina had nailed some of it, where to me, I remember my grandmother, may her soul rest in peace, would always say, you know, I never had to go to school because I was a woman. And it's sad that in this day and age, some women are still not allowed to go to school, because the expectation of some societies is that a woman's place is in the kitchen. And I remember growing up, you know, in Ghana, if you come from Ghana or Africa, it's unheard of for a boy to even go to the kitchen. They'll be like, are you kidding me? Why are you in the kitchen? Come on, go outside and play, you know, or to actually see a guy practice nursing. It's unheard of. How the hell is this guy in nursing? The expectation is that if women ever ventured out, they should be the nurses and the guy should be the doctor. A woman was not expected to be a medical doctor. So it's that example of what society expects from the genders. You know, if you're a woman, this is the way you should go. If you're a guy, this is the way you should go. I don't remember ever seeing women playing soccer growing up, or football growing up, because it was a boy thing. And now the world has changed. So that's one example from, you know, my background. At home today, a friend of mine was telling me, I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, oh, I'm taking the trash out. And he said, taking the trash out? And I said, yeah, just put it outside. And he goes, my wife doesn't take the trash. She apparently, Ghanaian women don't take the trash out. And I was like, are you kidding me? You know, are you kidding me? I'm taking the trash out. So the practice in my house is that it doesn't matter who does what. It's about making sure that as a family, we are supporting each other for the good of the household. My poor husband, God bless his heart, does the laundry for us. It's not because he has nothing to do. I mean, can you imagine a whole professor doing laundry in Ghana? They will kill me, you know. So it's having that mindset as parents and as individuals to say, it doesn't matter who does what. It's preparing the kids for the future, preparing us to embrace equity in the long run, because charity, as they say, begins at home. And if we don't do the right thing at home, it definitely is going to transcend outside.
So, Paulina, what is your take on that?
On an example of gender equity? So I like the conversation so much, I forgot the question. But so an example for me is really just some of the things that I've mentioned, you know, let's say if you're going to promote a woman at work, in the workplace example, you have got to make special accommodations if they have kids, if they have to get, if whatever the condition, their circumstances are, you need to accommodate that. I am literally saying you need to change the position to accommodate the woman that's in it. If they have young children and they have to get to pick them up, then yes, we do need to not schedule meetings at the time that it's time for picking up babies. So if the board meets at that time, then we change the board meeting time to an earlier time or a different time. So knowing the person in the position means adjusting the position to that person so they can succeed. And that means knowing their life circumstances. They have young kids, they take care of an elderly family member, and adjusting the job to fit those needs so they can actually succeed. You don't put them in there and expect them to forget their families and forget their lives and be successful. So that to me is gender equity, is knowing the woman who is in the position. If you're truly about equity, adjusting the position to fit that person's life so they can succeed. Then we're equal. Then we're equal. When we do that so they can succeed, now we can say we're equal. So that's
I like that. I like that. Empowering. It goes back to empowering our women, not just at home with the family, but also at the workplace. And that is very important. And it goes back to the home again, like Doreen was talking about. You know, what are we teaching our children? You know, if we leave everything, like yesterday, I go home, just to share an example, rather late. My son was coming in from school, and we're all looking forward to him. Spring break is here. And I go home and I realized my husband had baked chicken, made the sauce, cooked the spaghetti. I was like, whoa, thank you very much. And most importantly, my son would have done all that himself, because when he comes from school on his way, he's like, Mom, what do you need from BJ's? I'm going to BJ's, I'm going to ShopRite. And he comes, and sometimes I see him and I've not been told anything, but sometimes the chicken is baked and some is taken back to school. So maybe it's being given to somebody else. I don't know. But it's always engaging to see that, because it's like we have to empower one another. But it starts from home. Then you get to the workplace. Listen to the other women. What is going on? Can we have this board meeting at this time? Or can we change it? Like you said, a lot of things are being done virtually now. So we need to accommodate and also empower, lift up the other person so that they will also feel empowered, energized to go out and be who they are and what they need to be. So I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. I was going to ask this question, but I think it's already been answered by both of you. If we practice gender equity in our everyday life, including our work or our home. But I'd like to ask, since we've not mentioned anything about that, and it just dawned on me, I figure I'll ask, how do we do this at church? And I'll start off by saying, our places of worship, please pardon me, not everyone goes to church, it is the mosque or the temple, as the case may be. I remember going to do a presentation on naturalization when I first started my own practice, and it was a Ghanaian church. And I was floored because I just got there a little bit earlier just to make sure I'm okay. And I sat in the wrong side of the church. And apparently, I knew this would be the case back in the days of my grandmother. You had to put on a scarf before entering the church. You couldn't just show your hair. And I knew the men sat on one side and then the women on the other. But I had never seen that here in the US. So I went and I just plunked myself in the front. And after a while, I realized nobody said anything to me initially, but it was mostly men. I guess they were just like, she's a guest. What are we going to do with her? She's in the wrong side. But after a while, I took a cue because I realized all the women are on this side and the men, and I quickly jumped from that side to the other side. So in our places of worship, how do we, well, some places of worship is already established, so you can change that. So we can go with the flow, but do we evoke that change, or do we let things be? What is your take? I'm just curious. Doreen, I'll start with you and then on to Paulina.
Yeah, it's funny and then it's sad at the same time, because I know you were going there, where if we practice equity the way it's supposed to be practiced, knowing the uniqueness even among the sexes, that although we are all females, your unique needs might be different from mine, and then somebody's unique needs might be different from the next person. So bringing in that, being successful at equity, um, helps us to say, okay, maybe all women should put on scarf, but this person doesn't want to put on scarf. They are okay just the way they are. How do we embrace that diverse idea or that diversity in wherever we are? How do we embrace inclusion so that somebody who is coming to the church for the first time, in your example, may not know the rules of the church, but we are going to embrace them as part of the church and include their diverse ideas? How do we practice that? And then it's about that equality. I bet you the men were not asked to put on any scarf. So if men are not asked to put on scarves coming to church, why are we asking women to put on scarf? It's the same, I was going to say freaking hair. It's the same hair we have, right? So if you're not asking the male to put on a scarf, why are you asking the female to put on a scarf? So for me, being successful at equity, regardless of the platform, has to start by looking at the diversity and the uniqueness of each individual's needs. And then inclusivity, where we are saying, hey, come as you are, because that's what God is saying, come as you are. The church is not for perfect people, it's for all of us, right? Sinners trying every day to be better. So come with your diversity. We will include you into our fold. And then we put you on the same, equal ground. It's the same preaching. We still have we still have a deficit where there are more men in the pulpit than women everywhere, regardless of the church. And it's by practicing these things and taking away those stereotypical ideas and age-old norms that we can really be better at equity.
Thank you, Doreen. Paulina.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, because I grew up Catholic, and in those days, yes, we some the men sat on one side, but that has long changed. Even in my upbringing over time, we don't do that anymore. We mix up, we sit anywhere we want and go to church in whatever clothes. I remember going to Ghana one Christmas and going to church with my girls, and they wore whatever they wore. I've never picked dress clothes for them. They're old enough now. They're not two. So we were in church, and I noticed that apparently what they were wearing would not been appropriate for church on the Christmas, because it was black or it was a little something. I thought they got dressed and went to church with me, and I was proud of them. So I think I lean less towards, my place of, I don't have a committed place of worship right now. And I'll be honest about that. Not because I think it's bad. I think people need all kinds of social constructs, but I don't need that. What I need is what the question you were asking earlier, which is, how do you practice equity, gender equity daily? I will say I practice equity daily by meeting people where they are. I'm a healthcare professional, and I understand that it's tough, and that getting people to change behavior and live healthy, if you forget what it is that they're dealing with, you're not being therapeutic, right? I can't do anything for anyone unless I understand and accommodate the circumstances they're coming from. They may be coming to see me about diabetes, but maybe it is the fact that their kids is sick and the kids has a problem that they're dealing with. And so I'm not going to waste time talking about diabetes until they're ready. That's meeting people where they are. And I've met with clients where they literally sat there and cried. And for an hour, they cry. Okay, go ahead. So you can cry now because that's where you are. I'm going to wait for you to get through that hurdle. So at the time when it's appropriate for you, I can actually be therapeutic. And then let's talk outside of the therapeutic session to say, Now that you feel better, what is it? What do you need? It's very simple. It's meeting people where they are and understanding their needs. And Doreen, you said something earlier, which is really, for me, was a thumbs up, is we have to understand, accommodate people for who they are. Our poet sister talked about rooted in reality. That's the reality. That's their reality, not my reality. It's not just saying that it's okay for them to be here without a scarf. It's saying that if they don't want to wear a scarf, that's not my decision to even talk about scarves in front of them. They get to do what they want to do. I want to be accepted. You want to be accepted. Let's meet each other where we are. And so it's that practice that I strive every day to do, which is meet people where they are, understand their circumstances, and don't be judgmental. As my kids have taught me, Mom, you're being judgmental. I try not to be judgmental. They've taught me, well, you can't judge people. Yeah. You have to take people for who they are. And if you're truly being equitable, then you allow them the space to thrive. And you may even want to give resources to support where you think they need support so they can truly thrive. So that's what I strive to do on a day-to-day basis, is seeing where I think people need my support and giving that if I can, and really also taking the judgment out and saying, it's not for me to decide, it's up to them, and especially other women. I want to be accepted, and I'm going to assume that every woman also wants to be accepted for who they are. And so taking the judgment out, I don't get to decide, everyone gets to determine, and I just help if I can.
Thank you. That is very important. So I appreciate that. What are the benefits of practicing? I think this question answers itself, but it's still good to hear your viewpoint. What are the benefits of practicing gender equity? One of them I know is uplifting that woman who is at the bottom and thinking I don't count, and realizing there's a seat at the table for me too. Or as in the words of Shirley Chisholm, if there isn't a seat, bring your folding chair and make yourself welcome at the table. But Doreen, what are the benefits from your viewpoint of practicing gender equity?
I think that the benefits, the long-term benefits, definitely priceless. I have seen in my career several of the female executives whose husbands are home taking care of their children or stay-at-home dad. And I know society still frowns upon it. So coming in and saying people are unique, and I know we used to say growing up, if a man can do it, a woman can do it too. If we come to the table knowing the unique needs and providing those support tools for each person so that they can rise, there's this saying that I love, we rise by lifting others. If we can pull, men are already at the top or almost at the top. If they can take a step back and say, the table is big enough, let's pull these women along so that we are not just the breadwinners at home. They can support us the way they see women support. It will be helpful. That's the first benefit. First benefit where everybody see themselves in the whole. You know, they tell us to have your dinner plate has to be colorful. It's about bringing in the vegetables, the different vegetables, which is all the different talents. If you think about an organization, all the different talents within male and female in the vegetables, bringing in your carbs. How special is this person? You know, the neurodivergent people. How special are they? How can I bring them to the table and provide them the tools that they need to thrive in this environment? It's about bringing in that protein, right? You know, how unique is this person and their talent so that the whole plate becomes colorful and it helps to generate good ideas to really make us successful as a community, successful as a nation, successful as an organization, because we are tapping into all the resources and providing them the tools they need to be able to be equal. It's about how do we make everybody equal, literally.
Wow, thank you. What about you, Paulina? What are some of the benefits?
For me, benefit, one primary benefit to me I see is health. If we allow people to be who they are, that's what health is. Health isn't just about absence of disease. Health is about wellness and well-being. And that's it. The ability for people to be their real selves is what health is all about. And if we all knew that we would be accepted for who we are, we will be that much more healthier than our baseline. So to me, one benefit of practicing equity is increasing and improving health and spreading healthy practices. And then of course, it's really equal means we all benefit from it. If I benefit, if you support me, provide me resources so I can thrive, chances are you will also do better. And so it's that whole mutual benefit that everyone does better when we support each other and promote equity. And so it's health and it's the mutual benefits that we experience wherever we are, if it's a home, work, church, wherever that is that we live, play, pray, whatever that is. So yeah.
And I couldn't agree with you more, both of you. And I guess it's just that upliftment, like I was mentioning before, feeling that you belong at the table, feeling that there's a seat for you at the table, thinking and realizing that this is not a male-dominated area where you cannot make a difference. And I think it starts also from us doing it and also giving that person that confidence. If you go into a job or a corporation and you see that the woman high up there is calling you to come in or listening to your, how do you call it, your viewpoint, and it's important, that is great. And I think practicing this wherever we are also, it's important because I remember working back in the day before I went to law school, I was working with Lawyers Committee for Human Rights. And we went to this event where nobody wanted to go, the support staff, because they said, oh, every time you go, they tell you come, but then you dress up nicely and you show up. And then they tell you come and, come and handle the codes and so on. So most of the support staff would not go for any of these events. And mind you, there were interesting events sometimes at the mayor's Gracie Mansion and so on. So I came very new and I'm like, why aren't you guys going? It's a chance after work to, really have a good time. And they kept saying, no. And I decided to go and I experienced it myself too, because I realized that the support staff back then, I was an administrative assistant, we all huddled together, just talking and so on. And you have all these lawyers from all these big firms. And one of the women at the job came, we were talking and she came up to me and she said, she walked past the male support staff members, came up to me and the other females, was like, could you please go get the coats of these guests who came in? And I said, I looked at her and I always try to be respectful. I looked at her and I said, I respectfully decline. And she got a shock because I wasn't screaming and yelling. I just said, I don't think so. And then she went to the males at this point and asked them to do it. And I guess they did. And then at the next staff meeting, the executive director said, are there any concerns, any questions? He would ask that all the time. And then I would always be quiet. And I said, yes, if you want us to come to an event to take coats, you should let us know because it's after hours. So we know we're getting paid extra to take coats. But if you're telling us, oh, support staff, you're part of the group and you should come to these events and listen to these speakers and so on, and we come and you come and ask us to take coats, that is a problem. And since then, every meeting he'd be like, Laura, any concerns? And he apologized profusely and said, no, that's not why we want you to be there, because I spoke up. Now he had to address it. But you see, if nobody had spoken up like it had been all this time, nobody was going for the events, the support staff, because someone experienced the same situation and decided, I'm not going to go. By speaking up, I spoke up for everybody. And then he said, no, when you should go, you should just sit down and enjoy the events just like everybody else. So sometimes it takes a lot of courage to do that. And I always tell my children, my stuff, it's in the way you address the issue. I mean, I could have been huffing and puffing. How dare you think I'm going to take those coats? But by saying, no, I respectfully declined. She had to do a double take and find someone to take the coats. So thank you for sharing that. How would you've addressed this question that is coming, but I guess it's maybe something left there that we could ask again. How will you promote or advocate for gender equity in your community? This has been addressed in the conversation so far, but I just want to hear from you, Doreen, and from Paulina, specifically. If there's one thing that you're doing that you're going to do better, or one thing that you didn't think of that you're going to do, how will you promote or advocate? You're already doing it, so it could be something that you do more or something that you didn't think about. So, Doreen.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about this strive for gender equity is making sure that both the men and women are on the same playing field. I have to bring in my company where now, for years, women are always given that maternity leave. It's your baby, go take care of the baby and all that. But now you see more companies giving men also paternity leave, so they can at least experience what it feels like to take care of that baby, or even giving that equal vacation days. In my situation personally, I try at home, I practice that gender equity by making sure that if I'm cooking, my son is right there and asking questions, and I make him practice. And I said, it's okay not to get it right the first time, because between college and when you marry, there may be that gap where you may not always have the money to go out and eat. You should be able to cook and take care of yourself. So it's making sure and telling him that it's okay to do this, or bringing him in to see how women are going through those struggles, sharing my past with him and saying it was a woman thing, but now there has no gender attached to it. You have to be part of the conversation. You have to walk in my shoes as a woman, as a mother, so that you can really understand when you grow up how you relate to others. So practicing at home, I would say it's all about charity begins at home.
Thank you, Doreen. Paulina.
Yeah, so I applaud that, bringing your son in to see, because I couldn't agree with you more that that's really where it all begins. I have 2 daughters, so I don't know I can't make up stuff, but what I will say is what I know, which is what we've talked about before, meeting people where they are. How I practice is understanding that there are differences. Even in this, I have 2 daughters, like I said, they are both strong in different ways. And so recognizing where the strengths are and allocating different resources to each of them where I think they need me more, or it may not be me that they need. In fact, sometimes maybe it's not me they need, but something else that they need, making sure that I don't judge them and that I get them what they need. And if it's not me that they need, I have no ego. I'll step out of the way and let what they need, so they can access what they need. So it's again, just knowing people, understanding and meeting them where they are. Some people may be able to speak up in public, some people may not be. And so if it's my staff, if somebody's not speaking up in public, one thing that I have is empathy. And so I can feel when people are uncomfortable. I pick up on what's beyond the words that people use and try to make sure that I'm getting to what the needs are beyond what they've said. I see faces, especially now that we're on Zoom a lot. I make the effort when I'm not, because I spend so much time on Zoom, when I'm in person, maybe it's one-on-one conversations, and not pushing people in a way that's not what they can actually handle. So just picking on beyond the words and the faces, what else is going on that I may be missing? And if I pick up something, I want to make sure I follow through. I'm seeing this. How come this is not done? And what can I do to help you? This meeting is about you, letting me know what it is that I can do to help you. Folks have helped me come along. And so I think about things that helped me. I'm not exactly you know, whatever it is you see, that's what you see. I do what I can. I do it the best way I can, but I don't have everything. And so I think about what helps me, and I try to make sure that I'm available to others in those ways, at home with my kids, recognizing that this is different. They don't have this. I'm not going to compare A to B. A and B know each other. And so really finding out, you know, the difference and supporting where I think I'm most needed, and also getting out of the way when I think I'm going to be a hindrance. And if I recognize that people get along, introducing, like, you know what, I think you should really, even at work with my staff, talk to A because she's doing a really good job, and pick, so it doesn't look like I'm enforcing something, because if I say it, they may feel like they must do it because I said it. And so pairing people up and say, can you ask her? She did it well, and let her show you. It's less intimidating. So really picking up on everything, every asset in the environment, and putting it together in a way that I think is most useful for the people that I work with, especially the women.
Wow, that's powerful coming from both of you. And again, like you said, or even when you think of our roles as women at the workplace, mothers at home, or daughters, you know, to our mothers, it starts from within. Everything starts from within. Your presence should be felt when you walk into a room, because you make others feel better. Not because, oh my God, she's coming in, let's huddle up and, you know,
Exactly.
let's go, you know,
Exactly.
and no, I mean, and your opinion counts. In my office, everybody's opinion counts. Before I engage in something new, I'll be like, what do you think? Recently, we've been using Microsoft Teams a lot, and I thought that before using it. My daughter was the one who came up with it. Interestingly, getting the kids involved. My son knows that when it comes to something very high tech, you go to Margaret, her sister, even though traditionally you think it would be the guy, like, wow, Margaret is good, just she puts this together, she puts that together. But when it comes to talking and feeling what's going on with people, it's my son. Oh, how are you doing, Mom? You always come, Mom, so how was your day? And I didn't realize this when he was much younger. And I'll come home and he'll be like, how was your day? I'm like, hectic. And I'll just sit down. And one day I came home and he said, Mom, how was your day? And he said, let me guess, hectic. I'm like, oh, no. He was the one who'd ask, how, you know, just to see how things are. So then, how are the clients? And I'm like, well, okay. So I said, well, it wasn't too bad. I changed that because I realized I was coming home with negativity. And then in the workplace too, a lot of times you have interns working with young, you know, it's working with you, and you want them to know this is how it works, and this is how you can make a change. And I shared this before on one of the forums, but I'm going to share it again. A client came in very upset and then just lashed out at the assistant to the front desk. And then I picked up on it because behind the scenes, you always pick up on stuff like that. It was a guy, and he came to my office, and my assistant always tell me, when they come to your office, Mr. Jangba, it's a different person altogether, because what we get out there is not what you see. So for some reason, I got wind of that, and I did not appreciate that at all. So he came and sat down very nice, all chatty, and I said, you know what? If you look around, there's a bunch of women here. So when I wake up in the morning, I put on my cloak of positivity. I have to stay positive. And I try not to absorb other people's negativity, because then it will cloud my positivity for the day. So I do not appreciate the way you treated my assistant. So I believe she deserves an apology. And then we can continue with your case. And he says, oh, madam, I'm so sorry. And I said, no, the apology is not to me. You would not be talking to me like that. The apology is to the person you just disrespected. Now, you would think I had asked him to go and commit murder. Like, we have that notion that the front desk person, the receptionist, the secretary, the assistant is below you. So for him, he was ready to apologize to me, but to go and apologize to myself, wow, how could I? And I said, listen, if you really pick up things, those are the gatekeepers. They are the ones who push me. Call this person. They've called 3 times. Do this, do that. So if you make very good inroads with them, you're halfway there. Not that I ignore you, but people always tend to just disregard the person at the front, or you're of no use to me. And I remember working at a law firm where before the attorney hired any new lawyer, he would go straight to the front desk. You could have all the accolades, you could have all the degrees in this world, because a lot of times they don't realize, so they may have talked down to her or whatever. He says, no, with all the degrees and whatever experience, I will not hire him because he would treat my client like that. So he would go up to the front desk. How was Sam when he came to the office for the interview? And if anything negative came from her, you didn't get that job. Because for him, everybody matters. And that's the way it should be. Thank you for that. Yeah. And this is an interesting one because as I put together the guests for this episode, I was like, I should have engaged one of our men. I thought about that as I was driving in this morning, but this question leads to that. Do you believe that men should be brought into the conversation in regards to gender equity and gender equality? Doreen and then Paulina. So next time I'll do it right because it would be good to hear the men as well. So Doreen.
Absolutely, Laura. You know, hands, feet, everything absolutely needs to be brought into the conversation. But I definitely want to quickly add here that gaining the momentum on equity will require not just that mindset shift, right? It's much more than mindset. It's about revamping those ancient old ideologies and removing those barriers. How do men start by removing those barriers so that women can have that window to say, I also belong? And I'm getting the tools and support from all these men to thrive in this environment. Things like I had mentioned, saying that a woman's place is in the kitchen should not be part of anybody's conversation at this time, or that it's okay for the man to be single at a certain age, but for a woman, how are you single beyond age 30? It's a no-no to the society. It's literally a taboo, or that you don't have a child at a certain age. So men should be brought into the conversation, but bringing them in will also require that they take a look at the makeup, not just of the women, but the individuals. What does this individual need to be able to come up and be part of the equal? How can we identify those unique needs, and how can we support them in the way that they need to thrive? So I would say bring them in. It's long overdue. They have to be part of the conversation to really evangelize this.
Thank you. Paulina.
So I, of course, 100% agree with that. Where are we going to go without our men? I want to put that on the table, on the record, that I 100% want the men involved in this conversation. Let me also say that that is part of, Laura, you just said, I should have brought the men in. Well, maybe you should have, but you didn't. And it's no big deal. Next time, there's no apologies to be made for that. That's part of our upbringing to think that, I don't think men think like that. Okay. Men, oh, well, I should have done that. Oh, no, that's bad. No, they move right along. And we should uphold ourselves for the things we do. Not everybody got up on a Saturday morning and said, let me have this conversation and let me put it out in the world and have others hear about it, or
that is true.
Talk about it. And so that's something positive that not everyone's doing. Not every man or woman is doing. So that's what you did that everyone else wasn't doing. And that's far. That's the game, right? So I think we need to bring all the men in. That doesn't mean we fault ourselves because we missed something along the line. That means it takes all different ways to do it. And this is one way to do it without the men, but every chance we can bring them in, absolutely, we want to bring them in as well. But kudos for the things we do. And if we don't get it right, we'll come back to it.
Thank you for that. Again, that's upliftment. We're having a discussion, even if we forgot the name.
Yeah.
And they may hear about it and they may do something, even though they're not here speaking.
Yes.
I mean, I think I say that to say there's nothing wrong. You know, it goes back to what we said about meeting people where they are. If we really respect each other, then we appreciate every little thing that we do, as opposed to what did I not do? A lot, but that's okay, because this you did do and you got it right. And so that's what's important.
I can check that box. Thank you. Okay. This again with Doreen first and Paulina after. What are some ways you would like male advocates to support women? And we mentioned that, and to your point, Paulina, you made a very good mark when you said they will see this. At least we got started. So when they see it, they can join next time, or they can say, can I be a part of it? So kudos to that. But what would we like our male advocates to do to support women?
I want men to feel comfortable in their shoes and not feel like women are coming to take over. You know, they should serve as allies, and being an ally means feeling comfortable and recognizing that you are in a position to help somebody else. I was watching TV recently and I was appalled to find out that in this 21st century, the crash tests that they do, the car crash test, they still use the male mannequin or the male model, and they don't have any female models to do the test crash. Although studies have shown that male and female hurts differently in a car crash. But then again, it's the men who are behind these things. And so even our shoes, the shoes that we wear, you know, everybody's feet is supposed to be this thin and fit, but it's not like that. So being an ally, it's the first thing I would ask our male advocates to really have that open-mindedness and recognize that if they are doing something or making decisions, first of all, nobody should be making decisions. Males should not be making decisions about women because they don't know what we go through. But if peradventure they are, it serves them right to bring in the women to say, guide us. How can we make you better? How can we make this decision so that in the long run, we are bringing you in as an equal? For God's sake, God pulled us from their rib and said, he's your equal, right? So how do they live up to that and evangelize very loud and clear that we are all about equity? And by so doing, they will be checking off the box. When you said checking off the box about diversity, inclusion, equality, and then wrapping it up with that equity, which all of us are striving so hard to achieve.
Wow, thank you. That is deep. How about you, Paulina?
I think it's the same, you know, asking, I want them to talk to women and talk and hear the lived experiences of women. And understanding that every woman's lived experience is different. So don't take one woman's experience and try to transpose it on another woman in a different circumstance. So I want them to have conversations with women in the different situations they're in and hear from those specific women what their lived experiences are and what their needs are and what really will help them thrive. So yeah, talk to the women and learn from the women specifically. All situations are not the same. Make the effort to have these conversations on an ongoing basis. It's not a one and done. It's a process, and it may look different in different places. And if you're committed to it, please make the effort to stay with it and talk to women at all times.
Thank you. And our last question, all too soon, all good things come to an end. Our last question, is what are some life lessons you would like to pass on to young girls? And apart from even just encouraging them and empowering them and letting them know you can do it, because a lot has changed even since I was a kid or I was a young girl. What are some of the life lessons you would like to pass on to young girls? Doreen, starting.
I would say they should feel like they are enough. You are enough, uniquely enough. Don't let anybody tell you you're not enough. There may be situations where in this journey of equity, you're walking into a room and you may be the only person who look like you, who look like you, maybe the only woman, the only Black person, the only person with, disability or whatever that might be. But know that you are enough and that you can do whatever you set your mind to it. And that, God hasn't brought you this far to embarrass you. So go ahead and pursue whatever dream that you may have, knowing that you are enough. And when there are times you doubt yourself, and I do this for my own, I put on my crown. That, putting on the crown is picturing how the royal family, when they have that crown on, the way they walk with that false sense of confidence, put on that crown, that invisible crown, and just lift your shoulders and do what, take that first bold step, because you are enough.
Wow. Very thought-provoking. Thank you. Paulina?
So it's similar to that. I would say, be yourself. No apologies. If you feel like not, you have the right to change your mind, by the way. Be yourself. If the thing about being yourself is, if you don't present yourself, people are going to treat what they get. And so if you're looking for equity and you're pretending you're happy and everything's fine and you're not being yourself, you're not going to get what you need. So strive to be yourself at all times. And keep in mind that you have the right to change your mind. If you decide that the path you're walking isn't working for you, turn around and being yourself, live your truth and do what best suits you, because that's how you're going to actually thrive. If you stay in your space and be true to yourself, people are only going to react to what they get. And you need to teach people how to treat you by being yourself as much as you can, as much of the time as you can. And yes, if you change your mind, you have the right to, because only by being yourself will you thrive in this world.
Wow.
Paulina, I like what you said. This is something I tell my son, every time. I'm like, listen, be yourself, because everybody else is taken, right? Everybody else is taken. So be yourself. I just love that.
It's very powerful. And I got up because I just remembered that I was supposed to, and I forgot. But Jayne's book, for those of you who would like to engage and read some more poems, it is And So She Wrote. It's on Amazon.com. So I got a few to share with friends just to read, because that she has a lot of powerful poems in there, and even to put it together and publish, it's no joke. So we will put it on our website and so on. But it's And So She Wrote, a little book of poetry. And that is one of the things I remembered too. And in terms of what do we leave our young girls with, I think one of the most important things is, please keep in mind, seek mentors. If you ask someone, I need your help, they will always, always help you. And if you ask the first person and they don't, ask the second, the third. Seek help in terms of, can you please mentor me? I want to, become a big time person in corporate America like Doreen. So, I want to become a big time person in healthcare like Paulina. So please, can you give me a little bit of your time? People are willing, but sometimes you have to take the first step. Like I always tell my kids, you have to do the heavy lifting. Set the goal. This is what I want to become. Go look for that woman who is doing very well as a doctor, a lawyer, whatever the case may be, and sit with the person, even for coffee. Can you please tell me what a day is like? Because it may be that you were thinking of becoming a doctor, but you realize talking to this person, maybe I should tweak it and do something else. But you wouldn't know because they will share with you. We're all here. What I did was I told Paulina I need help. I told Doreen I need help to put this together, and they came together to help. So for our young girls, don't be bashful. Go out there and look and ask, please help me. And we're here. No matter what, we're doing. If someone needs help, we always reach out as women, because others, one person said it, others helped us to get here. So we owe it to you, if you're listening, to continue with that. And a lot of times we're afraid. And so, oh my God, maybe you should, no. Go talk to the person. I would like to shadow you. I like to even know, if you know somebody in this field, because I'm trying to, and we're here to help you. And before we close this session, I would like to talk about another thing about fear, and it's from Marianne Williamson. It's not a poem. I'm not even trying to be a poet, but it says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So this is by Marianne Williamson. You can Google it and it comes up, but others have walked this walk that we are walking. So engage, talk to them. And most importantly, as women, sometimes you go into a room and everybody's looking at you because, my goodness, you are Paulina, you've achieved so much. Being in the Middle East, diabetes education, that's not no champion. You are Doreen, you are head of global, so much. But then we come in and we crouch because as women, we don't want others to shine. We want to be the only person. But guess what? When the sun is shining and you're walking, it's shining on everybody. It doesn't shine more on you because you're the first person who said outside. So please embrace this sisterhood we call, being together with women. And some will lift you along. Some will also push you down or PhD you, as they say, pull her down. But for the most part, everybody is in awe of a woman who has walked that walk, who is at the top of the mountain. So on that note, I want to ask our guest again if there's anything else you want to add before we close our episode today. Doreen, Paulina, is there any other words of wisdom that you want to add before we close?
I just want to say thank you for making this happen because it's very topical, and for all the effort and research you had to do to pull this together. Thank you. I hope it inspires not just women, but the men and everybody else in between, because it's coming together that makes us stronger as individuals and as a society. So thank you so much. And Paulina, I always learn something from you. Thank you.
Paulina, what about you?
I think this was a great conversation. I just enjoy having this opportunity. So thank you for that. And for everyone out there, every day, think about how you can help somebody, give somebody an advantage so they can thrive. That's how you practice equity. And equity means it will give us the means to be equal in this world and healthy too.
Yes.
And on that note, thank you so much, WLA family. And I want to also thank our guests for their time. You could have been anywhere else. You chose to spend it with us. For that, we are grateful. On behalf of the advisory board of WLA, ambassadors of WLA volunteers, my own staff that came in early this morning to put this together, and also the exec board and everybody else who's been supported, donors, students who benefited from our scholarships. We thank you so, so much. And we hope you continue to stay with us and support us. And check us out always, WLANJ.org. You can see the full bios for these wonderful women. I kind of summarized it, but you can see what they're about and what we do as well. On that note, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend and stay blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Good day.
Bye. You too.